Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. We're finally done with X-Men versus Fantastic Four and X-Men versus Avengers and the New Mutants Forever. Those were really long videos. So we're back to telling single issues for a while now, at least. We are looking today at the Uncanny X-Men 220 from 1987, and Marc Silvestri, the one and only, the great one, becomes the regular penciler for quite a bit. So, including going twice a month in some cases. So, we've got the start of Storm trying to regain her powers, and we see Forge here hooked up to all these cables here, very Barry Windsor Smith like, and Storm coming in saying, "Forge, you coward, show your face. I want my powers back now." Marc Silvestri with Dan Green do this cover here. So this is a solo, basically a solo Storm issue, and it's very very wordy because we know that Chris Claremont loves his words. So I'm going to narrate quite a bit of this, okay? So I will read some of it like I normally do, but for the most part, we're going to see if we can get this done in about 20 minutes or so. All right. Here we go. That was my dog. So the first thing we see is our title, Unfinished Business. And oopsie, Chris Claremont right off the bat says, "In the realm of imagination." So we start out with these two eagles here. One represents Storm, and you can see it by the mohawk here. The other one represents Forge. And we are going, this is actually a really cool splash page here. So here we have our credits, Stan Lee presentation starring the Uncanny X-Men. Chris Claremont, longtime writer. Marc Silvestri is the penciler. Dan Green credited as finisher, which normally would imply layouts, but weird. Tom Rzakowski, letterer. Oh my goodness, he deserves so many awards. And Anna Senti and Jim Shooter continue the editorial. Rest in peace, Jim Shooter. And rest in peace, Dan Green, who both are no longer with us. And so we're going to see that these two birds are in love and getting it on. And, they're happy and all that. But you can see here that one bird is sort of transforming here, losing his feathers. And this again represents Forge here, who is kind of cybernetic, and it attacks the other bird. This is actually a really cool panel here by Silvestri here, and no borders, just these awesome lines here. This one attacks the other one here, and essentially kills the other bird, and the other one goes away. Thus represents the relationship between Storm and Forge, which really, he obviously didn't kill her, but she lost her powers. So, however, it was a mistake, but still. All right. And so we're back to reality, and we are in the Rocky Mountains here. And let's see if he tells us where in the Rocky Mountains they are. So it is, Chris Claremont is not, but Wolverine is up high, sitting at the top of this cliff here. One would assume this is Canada, but It is, I don't know. I don't know. It could be Colorado, it could be Montana. So Wolverine sits there, and Storm comes to the background, and Wolverine pops his claws, and he says, "If I'd wanted company, darling, I'd have left word where I was." And he slashes the rocks. And Storm says, "If I could afford to leave you be, my friend, I would not be here." And so he asks, "How'd you find me?" And he says, "I know you, Logan, better than you think." And so Wolverine sheathes his claws and put him back. Normally you get the snacked sound effect and versus the snicked. And he says, "Oh yeah, how's that, Storm? When I don't know myself anymore. Not in any way that really matters." And Storm here says, "I tell myself I am over the loss of my powers." And so a silent panel here as she talks and he just listens. I love this panel. I love kind of the up, like, down view sort of, as he lights up his cigarette. And Storm continues, "That I have adjusted, learned to cope, but here now, in the face of such majesty, what I want to do more than anything is spread my arms and cast my spirits to the wind." And so Storm lost her powers when the government, I by the way, I have a playlist. I should have said that in the beginning. I have a playlist for the X-Men, which I started off with Classic X-Men number 1, which was Giant Size X-Men number 1, and I have covered everything in reading order. I have an X Universe playlist where I have everything put in there. I have a New Mutants playlist. I have an X Factor playlist. That X Universe puts everything, and it's all in reading order, now including some Wolverines that are in there. So feel free to check them out. And so the government was trying to get Rogue, but Storm got in the way, and they used a weapon that they sort of stole from Forge. Mystique was she was trying to get Freedom Force in, and so Uncanny X-Men 185 is where I believe that she lost her powers. So she's been without her powers for quite a bit of time. Uh, so, but we're about to enter where she's about to regain them. So this is like I mentioned, the start. And so she continues here. "These peaks are home to you, Wolverine. They are the bars of my prison, but that is not why I have come." And she says here, "I can lead the X-Men as I am, but it would be better if I could do so with my elemental powers restored." And Wolverine agrees. "Forge's device stripped them from me. Perhaps the process can be reversed. A slim hope, but better than none at all. I tried to telephone. His number has been disconnected. I'm going after him. I need someone to shepherd the X-Men in my absence." And Wolverine says, "Not my style being boss, especially the way I'm feeling." And Storm says, "All I was, Forge tore from me. I was crippled, Wolverine, maimed. I thought I would die before asking his help. All I want from him was vengeance." And then she grabs Wolverine here. So let me see what goes first. "I do not know what he will say when I see him. He may laugh in my face, but I will swallow my pride and ask regardless, even beg, because I am of more value to the X-Men with my powers than without. And blast you, Wolverine. You'll lead the X-Men if I have to force you to do it." So Storm is afraid of no one. She's such a badass. And Storm continues, "I do this because it is necessary, because I am needed, Logan, as are you." And he says, "And I'm telling you, I'm not up to the job." And he kind of pushes away. "Let Rogue handle it, or Psylocke. I'll back him up." And she says, "The fact that I'm here tells you what I think of that. They are not ready." And Wolverine kind of walks away. He says, "You're making a mistake." And she says, "Perhaps it will not be the first. But if you do not return with me, Logan, you will be making a bigger one." And so finally, Wolverine agrees. He will lead the X-Men. And he says, "All right, darling, for better or worse, let's go." Thus endeth the part with Wolverine and anybody else. The rest of this is Storm. So here we go. So she goes to Dallas. It's been 4 days, and she's going to look for Forge. This is Eagle Plaza, his headquarters here. And so a lot of this is introspective and her remembering kind of everything that happened. So, um, read X-Men 182 through 185, and the life death part 1 for all that stuff. So she goes in and notices there's nobody there, touches this, there's nothing but dust. Again, just a lot of thinking here, and Orzakowski hand lettering all this because this was the 80s. She picks up the phone, but the phone is dead, and you can see here building condemnation. So they're going to tear the building down because apparently they don't make buildings like they used to. So there's no one there, and so the elevator's not working, so she's going to go all the way to the top. So now, it says here a quarter mile above the lobby. What? A quarter of a mile? Does Claremont not know how big a quarter of a mile is? That, I don't know. Are buildings I don't know. Maybe I don't know how much a quarter of a mile is. That is tall. So, all right. Now, we have Naze or Naze. I think it's Naze because the accent is on the E, which tells us it should be pronounced. Normally, the E is silent, so when a word ends in E, like because, the E is silent in the end. The rules of English are very, very silly. But the accent tells us we are supposed to say Naze. And it wouldn't be Nazi because Nazi you'd see two E's, I believe. So, anyway, so if you remember, I think it was could have been the same issue. The Dire Wraiths took over him, and then some kind of demon took over him. So he is dead, and he's possessed, and so he's working on some stuff here, and all of a sudden he gets a vision and sees Storm and Forge here, and he says, "Excellent, she has come as I knew she would. I must prepare her the most fitting of welcomes." And we see kind of an evil smile. Now, this isn't screen tones. This is actually hatching. So you can see the uneven lines. So this is actual hatching instead of screen tones. So it doesn't look like Dan Green wanted to put in the screen tone. So we get to the top of the building, very reminiscent of the way Barry Windsor Smith had done this. This building was created by Forge, after all, and that's his mutant power, is to build things. And so as she's walking here, wondering where he is, wondering what could happen, you see this "help me" here. And he says, "A voice, a woman, someone else is here," she thinks. And what it is we see this figure here, and she walks, and it turns out that it is a Storm and Forge, but like a computer image. So this would be holograms here, and it is kind of their fight that they had on Life Death. I don't remember what issue, 180, maybe 180, I don't know. The Barry Windsor Smith, the first Life Death here. Life Death 2 took place in Africa. So I believe it's the first Life Death. So she sees here that these are both holograms, and she's saying, replaying the events of months ago. Remember, in the Marvel timeline, things don't move quite the way it does in reality, even though it's probably been a few years. Um, and so she continues walking. Now we get Vietnam because Forge served in Vietnam here, and here are those demons from the issues that I told you that Naze or Naze was possessed. A little bit of dry tone here, and so we continue. Again, a lot of thinking, a lot of introspection or self-reflection here. All of a sudden, a laser charges at her, and a lot of lasers here, so she goes to avoid them. And so here you're gonna see her take off her jacket, and more images of Storm here, original, current, and the life death one, and then of course losing her power. This is just Chris Claremont's way of showing us the reader of what had happened here. And so she cries because that's the moment that she lost her powers here, and wonders why this all happened. And so she goes, but she is shot in the arm here, and she falls down. And look at this thud that Orzakowski puts in there. And so she's shot, but no blood or no. Now it may have been a laser, so it cauterized the wound, but at least I don't know, put something in there. So she holds on uh, to her arm, walks in again, continuing life death here, and she pours the wine from in there, and it looks like, so she's determining the wine is flat, so she's determining that whatever happened after, right after life death, he disappeared. So she continues walking, continues. There's videos replaying. Again, it's for the reader, most likely, because I doubt that that would have happened. But continuing. So Forge basically obsessed over this, what happened. So Forge obviously feels bad, and something in there happens. So she finally turns off the all these images things, and someone screams no, and she turns around, she goes, merciful lady. Now if you remember the cover, here we go. And so Forge is like, what have you done? And she sees him. Where is my love? Where is my heart? You had no right to take her. Bring her back. And so she says, sorry, open your eyes. The real woman stands behind you. And he's like, please, 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 I beg you. Now, real quick, look at how when you're looking at, or when you're talking, look at the difference between the straight line and all of a sudden this. So this should tell the reader that this is all electronic, that this isn't real. And so he screams out her name, and he's like, bring her back or I'll kill you. And she goes to hold him here, and she says, he's an illusion too. And so finally, now here is an error, puts the accent on the Z. That is not the consonants don't get accents, vowels do. So that's just an error by Orzakowski. And so Naze says, been a while, Wind Rider. And so she says, the seasons have been good to you, Shaman. Now, one of the things about Marc Silvestri and his art style is that, like Arthur Adams before him, he draws long legs, very long legs. If you can see her bending here, like if she stood up, this woman would be like 80, like 8 feet tall. I mean, it's just ginormous here. So this is just one of those things that it's part of Silvestri's style is long legs. And so same on the men too. You can see long legs. Everybody has long legs when Marc Silvestri draws you here. Love the dry brush being here. And so Naze goes, no complaints. Looking pretty Jake yourself. And she goes, what are you doing? And he answers, same as you, looking for my boy. And Storm says, at precisely the same time, how coincidental. And he says, actually, I've been around a couple of weeks trying to figure where Forge skipped to and why and what to do about it. Had the whole deal pretty much scoped when you showed. And so he says, glad you came, Storm. Saved me the trouble of calling. And Storm says, you were in this place and chose not to warn me of the holograms and active defenses. And he says, hardly. I set them on you. I wanted to see if you still had your edge. Real impressive performance, child. I expected better. And she's all pissed. The devil take you, old man. And the her marching through very Silvestri, like, again, look at these long legs. Can't take what's already owned. Rein up, woman. And she's like, go to hell. Or go to Hades at that time. But will you listen? I didn't monkey with this blame toys. I just turned them on. You saw for yourself what kind of state he was in. And she's like, so his insanity is no concern of mine. Love this. I love blank, no panels. And stupid cow. Are you truly such a fool? It has everything to do with you. Ororo, you are the cause. Forge loved you as he loved nothing and no one in his life. He believed he'd destroyed you by creating the weapons that banished your mutant powers. And that destroyed him. It tore out his heart. A child ravaged his soul. And the accent now is back on the correct place. No less, Naze, than his betrayal did mine. He could have chosen to tell me the truth about himself, but instead he lied. I trusted him once, never again. And so again, she keeps walking. Love, telling us about the dishes. So they've gone obviously to the kitchen. So, and so Naze says, you can't be blamed, Ororo, but you also can't deny responsibility. Question is, what are you going to do about it? And she says, nothing, Forge and I are quits. Then what brought you back? And she says, unfinished business. That is now complete. And he's like, he says, like blazes. And he says, woman, you've barely begun. Don't you realize who and what Forge is? The maker, Storm, the one who builds in spirits and in substance. Born with a shaman's power, the likes of which I ain't seen in generations, if ever. Trained from the cradle to combat the adversary, who, by the way, happens to be Naze here. Or, well, remember, Naze is dead, so the adversary is just inside his body. A being so foul and deadly powerful, his name dare not be spoken, lest by doing so you give him entry to your soul and dominion over all. Only the boy rebelled against heritage and teachings. He chose to play the warrior in a white man's war, meaning Vietnam, and lost more than his leg and hand in Vietnam, Ororo. He lost his Cheyenne soul. So you can see Storm walking up. Again, beautiful dry brush. Others tried to take his place. Not even bones are left of them. If Forge in his madness has been claimed by the adversary, we have to find him. It may already be too late, but at least we gotta try. So, Naze is claiming that Forge is the one being corrupted, which of course is not true, since it is Naze who is corrupted. And she says, I cannot, Naze. I have other responsibilities, friends in desperate need. And so she looks down here, beautiful. And And so Naze is like, I saved your life, Wind Rider. Remember, now I'm calling in that debt. And you see this little star, which means it's going to tell us X-Men 187. That's actually the issue where he was possessed, I believe. And so back then, they would do these introspectives here. Jim Shooter, rest in peace, my man. Best editor in chief Marvel ever had. Um, he was a force of nature here. And so, Forge is like the eagle, says Naze. The wind that helps him fly can also strike him down. And suddenly, this gust of wind comes through here, and it's trying to push her. And she's like, "No, I move when I choose. You can't make me." And so you can see he's screaming. He's screaming there. I can't do this alone. I wish I could, but I'm too old. Strong as I am, it isn't enough. I need your help, Ororo. The devil with pride. If I must, I beg it. So, now it's the morning, and it's a pretty day, and she's kind of looking, sees sort of Forge in the sun, and kind of him laughing here. So she's like, maybe it really is. And so, Naze, beautiful, a reverse silhouette here. The life of my foster son is lost, Ororo, but there's still a chance to save his spirit, what the whites would consider his soul. A great battle, Wind Rider, a necessary one. Please stand beside me. And she agrees. I shall, Naze. Shoulder to shoulder, Shaman, to the end. And look at him just with that evil smile, because that was his plan. You made the right choice, the only choice. Against the pair of us, my beauty. Poor Forge ain't got a prayer. By the way, her name is Beauty. That is what Ororo means. And so next issue, the Marauders return, and two X-Men face death by drowning. So, I love this because we are going now on the road to Fall of the Mutants. So, pretty cool. Marc Silvestri again makes his debut. Just beautiful work. Him and Dan Green, who will end up. So Dan Green and Marc Silvestri will leave Uncanny X-Men. It's going to be in a while, of course. This is his first issue here. But then they go to Wolverine when Jim Lee sort of becomes. So he will do magic at doing Wolverine. So great stuff. Uncanny X-Men 220 by Chris Claremont, Marc Silvestri with Dan Green. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.